This is the Art of Living Well Radio Network. Radio to inspire enlightened living. You're listening now to the Honest to God series with Aingeal Rose and Ahonu.
Well, good morning, everybody. This is Aingeal Rose and Ahonu, once again, your Saturday morning host on the Art of Living Well network. And we're going to have a very interesting show today with ourselves and our new course that's coming up, the 8 Steps to Freedom. But first, I do have to say that it is an absolutely splendid day here in Roundwood, County Wicklow, Ireland. The sun is shining, and this is a relief because we've had 3 days of gray skies and rain with a storm that passed through here. Ahonu, and I don't know about anybody else, but when the skies are gray for so long, you start to just think that you're just in this gray energy for an indefinite period of time, and it's so nice to see the blue sky. And I think we do have to remember that under every or over every gray sky is the blue sky, which is constant. So the blue sky is always constant. It's the clouds that are temporary.
Now that's very philosophical, Aingeal Rose, as we enter into this great time period we're in, this time of change, which is very philosophical. And you are right, at that core place inside of us is that joy, is that happiness, is that spark of divinity. But we just engage ourselves constantly in the drama, don't we, on every level?
Yes, but the drama can be fun. Can it be? I mean, how many lifetimes do we keep coming back here over and over just to play in the drama until ultimately we will all get tired of it and then want to return home, which is in my book. I do talk a lot about that in my book, A Time of Change, which will be out in actually 2 or 3 weeks. I'm just a little bit overwhelmed, as you know, because I've been used to sitting nice and comfortably, hibernating with my life, with you, just in our little sheltered spaces while we write and do a few readings and a few courses and things like that. But for me to have to put myself out there, I'm having a very hard time with it.
What's happening to her, ladies and gentlemen, is that she is starting to be in big demand, and radio stations and TV stations and magazines and article writers and newspapers are starting to look to interview her, and she's feeling a little bit shy about it all. But I think she is well capable of it. And what we're speaking about is her new book that's been launched at the end of September called A Time of Change. And for any of you who who have not ordered or pre-ordered a copy of it, you can get it from atimeofchange.info. That's all one word, atimeofchange.info. And there you'll be able to pre-order the book. If you wait, you can buy it from Amazon and all places where good books are sold, but you'll pay a little more for it. So go ahead and pre-order from atimeofchange.info now while it's fresh on your mind. Don't be overwhelmed, Aingeal Rose, because today's discussion is all about the 8 steps to freedom.
I know, Ahonu, when you initiated this 8 Steps to Freedom project, it was basically guidance from Spirit. One morning I woke up and there he was, typing away at the computer, inspired by the muse of his spirit. And there he was, creating this 8 Steps to Freedom workshop. And we've already had a few good sign-ups for it, Ahonu. And we're really, really looking forward to starting it on September 8th at 8 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, which would be 3 p.m. East Coast, 2 p.m. Central, 1 p.m. Mountain, and noon Pacific. Okay, and this will be a once-a-month course that will last for 88 minutes at those times. So we're about to tell you all about it.
And what's great is that people are actually getting on board with this, and excitement has been mounting for several weeks for this event. And what it is, it's a series of 8 online seminars committed to accelerating personal growth and freedom. And we're going to just outline right now what we're going to cover in that program, that 8 Steps to Freedom program. And first of all, we're going to answer the question, why is it called the 8 Steps to Freedom? And then we're going to look at what are the 8 Steps to Freedom. We're going to do a tiny little bit of housekeeping, really. That's just so people know where we're at and what we're doing. And we're going to go through a number of items that lists what you don't need. Then we're going to do a tiny little bit about who are we and why are we here. And then we're going to say, why the 8 Steps to Freedom? Why is it necessary at this point in time? And then we're going to find out what's it all about. What's in it for me? Because we know a lot of people ask that question. They say, yeah, sounds great, but what's in it for me? And we're going to answer the question, how can I use this information? Because a lot of people will say, right, that's all great in theory, but is it practical? Is it usable? Will it benefit me? And then we're going to look at all the things that are included in the program. We might even get a chance to read out a couple of testimonials that we've had from people we've worked with. We will certainly get a chance to ask and answer a number of questions and answers in our Q&A session at the end, and then we have a little summary. So to get going from there, we want to answer first, why is it called the 8 Steps to Freedom? And the reason is, as Aingeal Rose said, I sat up bolt upright in bed one morning and I got this very, very clear download that it was about the 8s. There was something about the 8. And we'll ask Aingeal Rose in a few minutes, because she's been a master tarot teacher for I don't know, like 25 years or something, or maybe 35 years. And she will answer to us what is the meaning of the 8. But nonetheless, I got this 8 Steps to Freedom, which I call this program because it's an 8-month personal power webinar series, and it starts on the 8th day of the 8th month for 8 months at 8 p.m. for 88 minutes. And its real sole purpose is for stepping into our personal power and freedom. Now, incidentally, we have a very good friend by the name of Urok of the Fifth World, and he sent us a little email as soon as we launched our 8 Steps to Freedom program. And in his email, he had included a little crop circle which came down on the date of 8/8/8, and it was indeed an 8 that was imprinted into the crops, and it was a most fantastic crop circle. We don't know enough about crop circles as yet. We are doing some work investigating the pros and cons of them, and using our discernment to establish if they are indeed beneficial or not to us. But nonetheless, from an image point of view, the figure 8, the way it was embedded into the crops, was absolutely wonderful. It was beautiful. And what he explained was that because the 8 unites the cycles of time and then releases them so you can get off the cycles of time or reincarnation, it completes the time cycle. And I thought, how appropriate is that? So if we can arrive at this sense of freedom, then I believe we will have completed our time cycle.
Well, I first have to comment, Ahonu, when you talk about how many years I've been reading the tarot, we don't want to let people know exactly how old I am, do we?
No.
But certainly the 8, a lot of people recognize the sideways 8 as the symbol for infinity. But in the tarot, it is a number of power, skill, and executive. So you would read the number 8 as any sort of business that has a lot of power, any sort of mastery of a skill that you have achieved, which yields you recognition or prosperity due to what you're accomplishing. So it is a very, very powerful number. But when we're talking about the cycles of reincarnation and the wheels within wheels, it is true that, planets do cycle through periods of time. They do rise into golden ages, and they do cycle back around to dark ages. And here we are up to the crest of the beginning of another golden age. So in a way, we've fallen as deep into darkness at this point in time as we possibly can. And now we are resurrecting or coming out of it into the light once again. Thank God. But because of the time cycle we're in, this, the light that is coming in is allowing people to resolve a lot of old karma very quickly. And a lot of people could be having difficulty with that and not really understanding what's going on in their lives in this process, what's required, how to clear it. Some people get mired in it, and others get sick even from past lives being restimulated into their present life. So in our course, we will be discussing at length this process of reincarnation, of karma, of the forgiving of karma, or the releasing of karma. We will be talking a lot also about the spirit body and how it can be traumatized, and looking there to find out what you may be holding there that would be inhibiting your ability to clear some of this stuff from other lives. Speaking of which, Ahonu, I've been bugging Ahonu this morning to take me to Egypt on December 21st with Carmen Bolter, because from the time I've come in here, I've remembered the ancient Egypt before it fell into any sort of darkness, the golden age of Egypt. And I would have flashes of this life throughout my life, and just want to go. I've not been back to Egypt. You have. You lived there for a while, Ahonu, in his 20s, and learned the language fairly quickly. So we're sure that Ahonu has lifetimes there as well. But I would love to see, hear, smell, and taste the area all over again, Ahonu, at that peak point in our time cycle.
Well, you were raising a number of very, very important questions there, Aingeal Rose. For example, I've often asked, why was I in Egypt? But this is a question that everybody can ask of themselves. Why are they where they are? Why were they living in such a place? Why did they meet such a person? And I believe that this is all part of a karmic unfolding, or as the Native Americans would say, picking up of soul pieces on our journey back to wholeness. And I spent a few years in Egypt. In my early 20s, I was very much asleep at the time. To me, it was one great youthful adventure, and galloping across the desert on horseback, across the pyramids and so on, was just one great adventure, not realizing the depth of the history that was actually there and what it means for us in our lives. Now, this discussion isn't all about Egypt by any means, but it is about releasing those karmic imprints that we've picked up from past lives and how we can recognize them. And this is one that we both recognize of ours. And speaking also of Carmen Bolter, if anybody wants to listen to the archive of our interview, we interviewed Carmen Bolter several weeks back. I'm not sure how you'll actually find which date it was. But if you go to aingealrose.com/podcasts, you will find a list of all the interviews that we've done. And in that way, if you scroll down through them, all those radio interviews, and indeed, don't just look for Carmen Bolter, because we've interviewed many, many other pioneers of consciousness that are really, really worth listening to. But in particular, we're talking about Carmen Bolter. You will find her there, and have a listen to that. And also make comments, get back to us, let us know how else we can help you. Or indeed, if you'd like to be on a show, which we broadcast every Saturday on our Blog Talk Radio show on the Art of Living Well under our own banner called the Honest to God series, please do contact us and let us know. Now, back to the 8 steps to freedom. We developed this program really to fulfill specific information that people need. We know that from our own practice all through the years. There's a dearth of information. There's a need in people to find out who they are and why they are here. And this helps deliver specific results that we know people want, and to solve specific challenges that we know that people have.
Yes, I was just reading a quote somebody put on Facebook today by Mark Twain. And it says something about the first great challenge is being born, and the second great challenge is to figure out why you were born.
Wow, yeah.
Isn't that a good one, Ahonu? I think I'm still trying to figure that out. How about you?
In fact, I think most people are, because there was one meeting that we put out one time, a group Akashic record meeting, and we posted it to our mailing list, and we broadcast it out on the airwaves, and it was called Who Am I and Why Am I Here? And it was the single most popular workshop that we've ever done. Isn't that the case?
It is the case. People were hoping that we would go around and answer personally for each person why they were here. But unfortunately, when you bring questions to Source oftentimes has a very bigger picture to reveal. And that was the case in that particular session. And that is in the book. Very interesting because it really went back to when our planet was a sphere of light and who we were back then. So very interesting, but certainly coming back down to earth. We are all here for a reason. You know, we don't incarnate for no reason at all. So we will be discussing what our life purposes may be. We'll be sharing some techniques and tools to help us discover that. So that will be a huge part of this course, as well as our soul purpose and what we're doing here. And for some of us, how to get out of here.
Now, how to get out of here is partly the goal, because we are assembling this small group of powerful truth seekers each month who have open hearts and minds and who are willing to grow personally in power and freedom and to contribute to improving our world. So if you want to find out more about this 8 Steps to Freedom, go to our website at ahonu.com. That's my name. It's all one word, ahonu.com/8 Steps to Freedom. Now, it's the number 8, and that whole thing is hyphenated. So it's number 8 steps to freedom. And altogether it reads ahonu.com/8 Steps to Freedom. We mentioned also a few minutes ago about Aingeal Rose's book, which is due out in September. Do get hold of that. You can pre-order it by going to atimeofchange.info. Now, we're speaking about the 8 Steps to Freedom, and you're listening to Aingeal Rose and Ahonu on our Honest to God series. There's absolutely no obligation whatsoever to continue if you find that the material we present, the content, our personalities, or even the way we do our presentations, if that's not acceptable to you and you enter into the 8 Steps to Freedom program, you cancel any time you like. Absolutely no obligations. Now, we understand too that the high frequency of this series is not for everyone. We know only too well that not everyone is ready for self-honesty, truth, or freedom. Do you want to say something about that, Aingeal Rose?
Well, I don't know, Ahonu, is everybody ready for some level of truth? I think most are now these days. It's just at what level they can hear it. But certainly this program will have something for everybody at every level. And that is the point of it, because some of this material goes back to when I was in my 20s or 30s and I was discovering how the universe works and all sorts of things, I spent a lot of time examining my own thoughts and beliefs on numerous topics. And certainly we've done hundreds of journaling classes, or as we call it now, transformational writing classes, because that's actually what does occur, to explore the content of ourselves. And, you know, it's that old ancient adage, know yourself, and there can be nothing truer than that statement. But this is where I think people may not be ready, because this course will ask you to be very self-honest. It will ask you to explore the content of your consciousness, your beliefs, your opinions, your motivations for things that you do in your life. And it will also teach you how to see the world as a symbolic representation of your own thoughts and beliefs. And it will be proven to you over and over and over again that you indeed are creating your dreamscape. So even though the self-honesty is required, I came to a point in my own journey where it wasn't so much anymore about the outcome, even though we are calling this the 8 Steps to Freedom, and by the time we're finished, you will definitely have tools at your disposal that will prove to you that you are free as a creator. But still, I got to the point where the more self-honest I became, the more fun it got to be. And it didn't matter if I was uncovering really distorted associative beliefs or things that made no sense, or whether it was a good belief, a negative belief. The journey itself was so revealing and so fascinating because it was proving to me that indeed, my life was a reflection of what I believed and thought at very, very deep levels. And, mostly it's the associations that we make from very early on, and also the things we bring in from other lifetimes helps us, be who we are, or create, quote unquote, a self-concept. Okay, so I hope everybody who does come will get what they need out of it. I do believe that they will, because we do have a way of teaching people that involves people at all levels.
Now, Aingeal Rose, you mentioned something very interesting about creating your own dreamscape. And that's what this is. And many, many people don't want to leave this dreamscape. That's where a lot of conflict comes, because they're saying that they want to ascend and they want to go home to God, but at the same time they're enjoying their relationships, they're enjoying their drama, they're enjoying their wealth, they're enjoying whatever it is that indeed, they could be enjoying the attention that illness gives them. And this is something that we will slowly peel away, that you can actually choose the higher road. You can actually choose to remove that concept of the dreamscape and have a happy dream instead of an unhappy dream. And I just need to say to you, Aingeal Rose, I'm enjoying the dream with you. Now, moving on, I did say that we were going to do a little bit of housekeeping, and this is becoming more and more necessary as time goes on, because we're finding that in that dreamscape, in the 3D world, there seems to be a growing little witch hunt going on, and people are finding they're being shut down, they're being closed up, they're being locked up for practicing any kind of psychic abilities, or using their third eye, or using their intuition, or basically being more of themselves, because there are forces out there, let's call it, that would prefer us not to wake up at all. So for that reason, we do have to put a little bit of a disclaimer on our 8 Steps to Freedom workshop course, and we may have to do it for our radio show, who knows. But anyway, we do not diagnose or treat any medical issues or any health related issues, nor do we claim to heal anyone of anything. The men and women in our energetic environment are empowered with knowledge and self-help tools. This is how we operate. We don't have all the answers. We never say we have. We never promise it. But we are a catalyst, a muse of sorts, a seeker of truth just like you. And our highest calling is to stimulate the spirit in you to reveal your own answers in a nurturing, supportive, and very creative way.
That was fantastic, Ahonu. And it is important to say that we do not give anyone the answer. So this is not a course where you can ask us to answer a question for you in terms of your relationship with yourself. We will definitely give you guidance on how to discover yourself and how to become free yourself, which I think is an important point, Ahonu, because really, it is all about being our own authority and learning what that means, and getting out from underneath all of the preconceived dogmas that have been out there for eons, where others are telling us what to believe, what to think, how to feel. And so we will be actually looking at that because it's pervasive in our world. It isn't just what you learn from your parents and your teachers and your church and your government. But, again, this goes into what some of us are carrying around from other lifetimes when we were powerful, we were intuitive, and we forgot to mention, the whole area of holistic health is under attack also with banning the herbs that are natural in the earth, that really there's a plant for every single ailment that's come upon us. So this was more about, it's a lot about becoming free, but predominantly becoming free internally first, because the dreamscape is only a reflection of what we're holding inside.
Now, that's a fantastic point that you just made about authority. And I would like to direct people to the summaries of the group Akashic records that we do every single week. I call them profundities because there really are profound statements from the Akashic records. I summarize the group records that Aingeal Rose does every single week, and I post them on her website at aingealrose.com. And let me spell that, actually, because a lot of people may not grasp the spelling of the nuance of the Irish word for angel, which is Aingeal. So her website is aingealrose.com. That's aingealrose.com. Now, speaking about we are our own authority, this was one of the points that came up the other night when we did a group Akashic record session. And we were talking about the authority problem, how we always look to judges and priests and teachers and gurus of all sorts. And Source came out quite strongly and quite clearly to say we are our own authority. Do you want to comment on that, Aingeal Rose?
Yes, I think that's very important, and especially in relation to freedom, because until you really do become free and you do understand your place in the universe and what you're actually doing with yourself, you will not become harmless. And I think this is an important part of what we'll be showing in our course as well, is the whole idea of what does it mean to truly be harmless. But you cannot be harmless unless you truly get a grasp of your freedom. And so this is great because there are belief systems that basically don't think that we're capable as individuals of being the authors of our lives. And actually, that was one of the reasons why we had Zoe Redhead on our show a few weeks back with the Summerhill School in England, because that school teaches children, well, I shouldn't say teaches children, allows children to be their own authority and in their own development from the time they're 5 years old all the way up to 18 years old. And certainly it wasn't something that I was privy to when I was growing up. I was in the system, and I was, taught by teachers and the church, what was right, what was wrong, and, you lose that sense of your own authority, that piece of you that is inside that will always give you a heads up on what's right or wrong for you. So many of us today are disconnected from that part of us, Ahonu, and can no longer feel it strongly. And in fact, how many times in our courses do we hear people say, I can't get in touch with myself? Do I have to learn how to be a meditator to hear my own inner voice again? And it's quite sad to think that you would have to take on, such practices. Not that there's anything wrong with meditation, but just to get back in touch or get a sense of who you are internally. And I just want to make one other comment about the weekly summaries that Ahonu so diligently puts out for me. Do keep in mind that those sentences are only a phrase out of maybe a 15-minute dissertation from Source on a particular question. So when you're reading those one-liners, do realize there really is a whole lot more to that than what you're reading.
Super. Now, the other thing we need to get clear before we continue is what we mean when we talk about Source, or what we mean when we talk about God. And we understand and we embrace all the different belief systems, all religions. And when we talk about God, really, you can call it what you like. we can call it what our like. Remember, we are our own authority. And for us, it's the same thing as the Holy Spirit, Mother, Father, God, Creator, God Source, Yahweh, Jehovah. You can call it whatever you want. Really, we're talking about that spark of divinity. We're talking about that I am presence. We're talking about the all that is.
Yes, and that goes right along with, being the author of your life, to realize that we all did come from a source that is divine, and that divinity is within each one of us, literally. And so we will discover that during this course too, and get a really good feeling of what that actually feels like. So I'm looking forward to that whole process, Ahonu.
Okay, one of the things to remember about this 8 Steps to Freedom that we're talking about today with Ahonu and Aingeal Rose, the program starts on the 8th of September, but you do need to register ahead of that. So go to ahonu.com/8 Steps to Freedom. And as I mentioned before, that's hyphenated. 8 Steps to Freedom. ahonu.com/8 Steps to Freedom. Now, one of the things that comes up all the time for us is the volatility of knowledge and information. Aingeal Rose's book is coming out shortly called A Time of Change, and indeed, anybody who doesn't believe that we're in a time of change right now just needs to look at the weather. Everything is changing. Consciousness is changing. And because of that, the material that we're bringing forward about consciousness, about freedom, about the growth of awareness is constantly changing. So we do reserve the right to bring you the latest downloads of the concepts of the 8 Steps to Freedom to you.
Yeah, so even though we do have a structure to our course, we are giving leeway to the particular things that the people who are listening may require according to their own level of consciousness. So that's why Ahonu was saying we do reserve the right to shift and change some of the format, but I guess they wouldn't know that anyway, Ahonu, because we would have prepared that all ahead of time. But I just want to comment also about this time of change that we're in. I mentioned before that we're moving to a new golden age, and I think it needs to be said that you and I represent or believe in the positive outcome of this change, that it is a process that is occurring. It's not an overnight fix. We are in a huge influx of light, which will peak on December 21st, 2012, but the process will continue thereafter. And we are of the opinion that we will definitely succeed as a world moving into this new paradigm. So we are supporters of a positive shift here, but we do need the enlightenment of each person on the planet to be able to contribute and flow with this new change, because we are part of the change. We are actually here to fulfill this plan, which is what a lot of us are doing. So what we do with ourselves really does make a difference.
We're going to be talking a lot about choices that we make on a moment-to-moment, day-to-day basis. The right choices for that growth and that freedom and that arising out of the dreamscape. Now, one of the things that we get asked quite a lot is, do we have to attend somewhere in person for the 8 Steps to Freedom? And the answer is no. This is where we're using the wonderful side of technology. And there's a whole story behind that too, but the wonderful side of the internet, to be able to bring this to you online. You don't need to attend anywhere in person. This is all online. And you don't need either to be a spiritual person. We find some people say, no, I'm disqualified from attending that because, I'm a mundane 3D person. I've got a 9-to-5 job, and I'm not at that place. No, if you're listening to this, if you're interested at all in that growth of awareness, if you're interested in becoming more if you're interested in personal freedom and self-empowerment, then this program is for you. And the other side of that too is you don't have to have anything that needs to be fixed. Many times people think that, oh, I have to have, something wrong with me. You don't. You don't have to have anything wrong with you at all. You don't need anything to be fixed to enjoy and get the maximum benefit out of the 8 steps to freedom that we're bringing to you. And the other thing, finally, about that is you don't need to be at any level of education. Think about this. Freedom belongs to everybody. It doesn't just belong to graduates or people who are aware of who the Egyptians were, or what's going on with the Hathors, or who Daniel Brinkley is, or what a near-death experience is. You don't need to know any of that. You don't need to be at any level of education or awareness.
Well, like I said earlier, I learned probably some of the most significant parts of this in my early or late 20s, early 30s. And then it was a matter of expanding upon what I was learning throughout the course of my life, and I'm certainly not finished by any stretch of the imagination. But at least I was very green in terms of this whole process of learning about the world and learning about myself in the world. So don't feel uncomfortable, anybody who may want to take this on, because it's a learning process. Yes, you don't need to be a technology expert to do this. If you're listening to this, you're good to go. It's just a way of dialing in on your computer on the night and being part of the whole teleconference with others. And we won't use you don't have to use your last name at all. I mean, we may want you to use your first name just for a matter of intimacy in the group dynamic, but you don't have to reveal your last name or anything about yourself on that level. And certainly no one will know what goes on in these sessions, only the participants and ourselves.
Okay, I'm glad you mentioned that, because it was something that I did forget, and it's important to say that it is a private invitation, personal development, self-mastery course where we're very, very conscious of people's privacy. Now, one of the things that we don't like doing is talking about ourselves, and here we are on our own radio show talking about our own program, the 8 Steps to Freedom. But what I mean is the personal stuff. We don't need to convince anybody of who we are and where we're going. Neither do you. But nonetheless, there are people listening to us now who wonder, who are you to talk about the 8 Steps to Freedom? Who are you to talk about self-awareness? Who are you to talk about self-mastery? And I just want to outline a few of the things that have allowed us to be in this position, to be able to speak with confidence about this entire program. We developed and presented this special 8 Steps to Freedom program. My name is Ahonu. I come from Ireland, and Aingeal Rose is my lovely wife from the United States. And together, between us, we've over 50 years of combined experience in the metaphysical and spiritual growth business. We founded the World of Empowerment. We started the first holistic health farm in Ireland. We produced the Honest to God series on radio every Saturday, and we created the Spirit of Love program, and we developed the Spirit of Love of the United States of America. Now, that's a whole separate thing. We'd love, if we had the time, to be able to go into that in detail. Maybe we'll devote a radio program to that in its entirety, because that Spirit of Love program needs to be put out there for everybody to know about it and to participate in it. But if you wanted to know about it in the short term, you can go to ahonu.com/Spirit of Love. Now, that Spirit of Love is all one word. ahonu.com/Spirit of Love. So, in our weekly radio shows on Blog Talk Radio, just like this one, we've interviewed many famous spiritual pioneers. We mentioned Carmen Bolter. We've interviewed Ambika Waters, who does marvelous work with color and sound and in the homeopathy field. We talked briefly about Zoe Redhead, who's the principal of the Summerhill School in the United Kingdom. And these live shows air every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time under the headline of our Honest to God series. The address of that is blogtalkradio.com/Art of Living Well. And these programs are also downloaded every day from where I archive them on Aingeal Rose's website at aingealrose.com/podcasts. And then something else that people may need to know about us is that we've consciously hosted our own websites for the last 2 decades on our own hosting service called diamondsunhosting.com. And we've developed countless websites for our spiritually minded clients. So we host websites for the likes of synccreation.com, consciousconversations.tv, Course in Miracles Ireland, timeofchange.info, which is Aingeal Rose's book, columbansisters.org, holistic.ie, holisticfairsireland.com, naturalconnections.com, shirleyward.com, and countless others. So just to finish up on this, because as I said, we don't really like talking about ourselves. It's just to, in a way, I suppose, position ourselves that we have a lot of experience in this field. Aingeal Rose is contracted by Wildflower Press to publish a series of 10 books over the next 4 years. And the first one, as we mentioned, is due out in September, entitled A Time of Change, Spiritual Guidance from the Akashic Records. And that one is followed hot on its heels by The Nature of Reality. And indeed, Aingeal Rose has hardly finished the first book, and she's into the second one, The Nature of Reality, already. So if anybody wants to pre-order those, I mentioned, go to atimeofchange.info. Now then, I know she doesn't want me to mention these finer little details about her past, but she has worked with whales and dolphins, sacred sites, planetary physics, and this whole 2012 personal ascension process. She holds certifications in psychic laser therapy, Katara healing, soul retrievals, Reiki, cellular repatterning. Oh my God, the list goes on and on and on. And of course, she reads the Akashic Records and more. And then, one of the most beautiful things about my lovely wife, Aingeal Rose, is the fact that she makes one-of-a-kind handmade fairies for people all around the world. Do you want to mention about those beautiful fairies, Aingeal Rose?
I'll mention that I'm in withdrawal about not having been able to create one in months, Ahonu, and I do mean months, since before we left North Carolina in June, probably April would be the last time that I actually created a fairy, and it is one thing that I do miss. And I was actually asked by the Elemental Kingdom, believe it or not, to start making these little dolls. They're all little dolls out of porcelain. Most of them are out of porcelain. Some aren't. But as a way to, celebrate the joy of this kingdom, and certainly the frequency and the light that they carry is obvious to people who do purchase them. Basically because the dolls create themselves, or each one is unlike anyone else. They're all very, very unique. And I do love them. They're something that I do miss doing, and hopefully, Ahonu, once we get settled in California, I'll be pulling out the wool from Avoca for the hair. I'll be pulling out the wings and the material, and I'll be busy in my little cubby when I have a breath of fresh air to be able to do these. So if anyone is interested in those, how can they see examples of them, Ahonu?
Just ask your webmaster, and I will tell people exactly where to find out about your fairies. You go to aingealrose.com, aingealrose.com/fairies. That's how easy it is. But I'm thinking of developing a whole new website for your fairies, and I will announce that in due course.
Okay, and before we continue, even though this is a bit of an advertisement for us, Ahonu, but I suppose it needs to be done. So I do want to tell people that in the archives of the podcast, also to be found on my website, you should be able to see our very first show in which I did interview you, Ahonu, on your Spirit of Love paintings. And it does apply to this course that we're talking about, because what you're doing with those is you are actually tuning into the spirit of each person and painting an image of what that spirit looks like inside a person, so that they have an outer reflection to remind them in their day-to-day life how beautiful they really are and how much they matter. And I just think those paintings are a precious, precious gift.
Okay, for anybody who wants just a quick rundown on what the Spirit of Love project is, it's a practical refocus away from the pain, the distortion, and the chaos in this world to the positive beauty and the wonder inside everyone and our planet. Its purpose is to expose the Spirit of Love, or that spark of God that's inside every person, and collate that high frequency into a virtual shield of love around the earth. And you can see it. It's a really is a fast-growing shield of love that rotates around the earth on ahonu.com/spirit of love. I encourage everybody to go there and take a look at that.
Oh, wait. And I do have to tell our listeners, especially any listener who has had one of those pictures done, is that we are creating a deck of cards from these pictures with permission. So we have a form here to fill out to give consent for Ahonu to use your Spirit of Love picture to be part of these cards. Now your name will be removed off the card, and the first deck will be a meditation set where the images that he has painted for you will be contributing even further to the upliftment of our planet and the world, because the pictures carry such a wonderful frequency and they're so beautiful. So the deck will be accompanied by a little book which explains each picture and the spiritual energy of it and the spiritual message. So we're looking forward to that. We have got quite a few replies already where people are honored to be part of such a project. But if anybody's listening who's had theirs done, please do email Ahonu at ahonu.com, ahonu.com, and give him your permission with your address also, because those who do agree will be getting a free deck once they're published.
Great. So just to finish up that, where we're talking about ourselves, I said we weren't going to say much, but if you search for Ahonu, Ahonu, that's me, or Aingeal Rose on Amazon, you'll find that we have lots and lots of little Kindle books there, and you'll also find lots of information about us on the major social networks. But that's enough about us. You are listening to Ahonu and Aingeal Rose. This is the Honest to God series. We're introducing you to the 8 Steps to Freedom, which is a program that we have coming up very, very shortly, starting on the 8th of September. We encourage you to go to the website ahonu.com/8 Steps to Freedom to find out about that. Now, I mentioned too that just before we go into a short little break, the websites to find us are aingealrose.com, ahonu.com/Spirit of Love takes you to the Spirit of Love project. The ahonu.com/8 Steps to Freedom takes you to the 8 Steps to Freedom program. And to pre-order Aingeal's book, go to atimeofchange.com. Now I'd like to introduce you for our break today a little chant by a good Hawaiian friend of ours by the name of Ayakepa. Enjoy.
This is the Art of Living Well Radio Network. Radio to inspire enlightened living. The Honest to God series with Aingeal Rose and Ahonu.
Okay, welcome back, folks. Now we're speaking about the 8 Steps to Freedom program, which is coming up very, very shortly. And we get asked all the time, why are you now bringing out the 8 Steps to Freedom? Why do you think Source gave you this information? Why the download? Why put it out to the world right now? And there are many, many reasons. I think that most people are not in touch with their own selves, and they're desperately craving to get back in touch with themselves. I think most people are sidetracked with money problems. Most people, I think it's fair to say, have lost their direction in life. And most people also have an inability to sense their inner promptings. It's very important that we bring these qualities back. Most people have no sense of inner guidance. Most people can't feel their true nature. And I think it's fair to say that a lot of young people are also out of touch with reality, whatever we claim reality is.
We will be having a great discussion on what reality is in this course too, Ahonu, because certainly that's a fluctuating field. So we will be discussing what is the fluctuating reality, and is there a true basic reality. We will be talking about the difference between those two things, and also how much people really are creating from their own being, even though they're not aware of it. Okay, so yes, all those things you mentioned are so important, especially today when people are losing homes and losing jobs and are really worried about survival and how they're going to eat. So we will be giving them tools to help them with those as well, and also to be able to get in touch with their own gifts, the ones that they were born with, and help them learn to express those out into the world and actually use their gifts in a career or a way of life that will bring them fulfillment on all levels, not just themselves, but in their relationship with others, which is a huge part of being free, is what you do contribute to the world around you in terms of your consciousness and your relationships, which I just think is such an important part of who we are as human beings, our interrelationship with all life everywhere.
Yes, very, very true, because everybody wants to contribute, but not everybody knows how. So this is why people feel so frustrated. And indeed, it may well be one of the many, many reasons why there's a huge upsurge in the rate of suicide around the world in many, many countries. Certainly we hear about it in Ireland every single day. And part of that too is because many people have lost their own sense of identity, and we hope this 8 Steps to Freedom program will help people return to their true organic selves. And the other thing, of course, that needs to be addressed is that many people believe in false gods and prophets. Now, this is a thing that we need to be very, very careful about, because, we're not evangelists. We're not those people who go out and convince other people that they're praising or kneeling before the wrong God. Really, what we're doing is opening up all the possibilities, opening up that level of discernment in you to allow you to be able to discern for yourself what you believe to be true or false, or right or wrong. Now, where we're finding this is really, really necessary is because in many of our workshops around the country and around the United States and in Ireland, many, many people come to us and say, how can you tell the difference between this archangel and that archangel, that God and that guru and that belief system and that new program and that new program that's come out? And we teach you how to go vertical. We're very, 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 very adamant about that part of you that knows. And we teach you how to connect with that so that you go vertical to your own self, your own God. And that leads to very, very clear discernment.
That's a very good point, Ahonu. And I do have to add to it, though, and say that discernment's an interesting thing, but until you really take a look at what your own beliefs are about the world and about yourself, and basically about everything in your life, and you start clearing away or changing some beliefs that don't serve you, you won't get to that part of yourself that is knowing, that is very, very sensitive to give you a really clear heads up on, yeah, this is great, no, this is not great. So it really is, discernment, in my opinion, has a lot to do with your connection to your inner self and how well you can read the messages from yourself. So, we will be exploring that at length, because we are in an interesting time where there's all sorts of lots of information out there, lots of subtle. I mean, it's not just the information that's out there, Ahonu, it's the subtle frequencies that are floating around our world today. Everything from, the influence of chemtrails or low frequency energies that, come through the electricity in your house, for example, and, things that we're being pulsed with, or changes in our food. So there's lots of things that, will kind of put us to sleep, if I can use that expression, to our own inner signals. And we will talk a lot about that also in this course. And I just want to mention briefly also about the commitment to the 8 months. Because really, if you think about our changing world, that anything we can do, certainly on a monthly basis, and using the time in between each course to use what's talked about in the previous course, practice it through your daily life during the month, and come back each month a little bit more and more and more aware, is the contribution that you're making to the world at large. And we do have to remember that we're in a process, so our course is going to be extending into 2013, and 13 is a hugely powerful transformational number, and it is the death card in the tarot, and it certainly doesn't mean death. It means a complete transformation, and where the old way of life dies and the new one is born. So this course will be moving from September all the way through the end of 2012, where the energy is peaking, and it will be continuing into, I believe, next April of 2013, which is a perfect time period for you to be making these huge, huge changes in your inner self along the way. So think of it as a commitment to your freedom, and a period of growth in your life that contributes not only to yourself, but to the good of the world.
That was super. And I think also it's one of the reasons why when we mentioned suicide a short while ago, it's because many people want out of this life, and it's because of that dumbing down, it's because of that need to go to sleep so as not to engage, not to... people who are getting no joy out of their existence really needs to attend this 8 steps to freedom. So, we find also that many people live only for the experience of physicality. What we're answering is the question of why we've developed this 8 steps to freedom program. And many people want to be great teachers, but they can't. And for most people, either something is not happening or something happened that they didn't want. And for most people, this world is all about me, 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 me. And then for another bunch of people, this world is just one huge struggle. And their gifts are thwarted.
Ahonu, you're starting to sound very depressing, aren't you? No, I'm just teasing them. But the truth is these are legitimate complaints from people that we hear all over the world. And, including ourselves, we've gone through periods of that ourselves, haven't we, Ahonu? So this whole journey of discovery in terms of how to make change in your life. And even though Ahonu was making the point for a lot of people, this world is all about me. There's two levels of that really we can talk about. One is that on one hand, it is about you in the sense that this is your journey. This is your spirit's journey through time and space. So on the one hand, this course has everything to do with you. The other part of it, though, is when, and I believe the part that he's speaking about, is when we perceive ourselves as in no relationship with the world around us or with other people, where we think that what we do or think doesn't affect anyone else. That's the type of me that Ahonu is speaking of, because surely it'll be shown that we are indeed in a relationship with everything else in this universe. And not only that, even that we have alternate selves, Ahonu, which we hadn't mentioned, but that each person listening to this right now has many other selves that exist in alternate dimensions and alternate realities. And all of those aspects of you are affecting you here, as well as everything that you do affects the other parts of yourself. So you are much bigger than we think we are, and certainly that can even contribute to your freedom if you understand that you can travel to other dimensions and experience other parts of yourself, see what they're doing, what their lives are like, for good or ill. It can be a very powerful experience. So we'll be talking about that as well.
People can find out more about that concept of alternative selves by going to aingealrose.com, because we actually run quite a number of quantum jumping workshops, and it really is worth checking out. Go to aingealrose.com/quantum jumping, and there's a link to Bert Goldman's program all about quantum jumping. Now, we want to get away from the negatives that we've been listing out here, the fact that people don't belong anywhere and people waste a huge amount of energy worrying and so on. These are the reasons why we've developed it. But, there's a fundamental underlying reason, and it is because if you're struggling, it means that at some level you believe you're outside of God. So this is why we want to work with you to move all of us, humanity, into our personal power and freedom, and move away from this place of stuckness where we have been for so many thousands of years. And then it raises the question, there is a cost in staying where you are. Like, what's it costing you to stay where you are? And then it leads to the next question. Like, let's say on a scale of 1 to 10, how urgent is the desire in you to take that first step? So let's give that website to register for the 8 Steps to Freedom. It's Ahonu, AHONU.com/8 Steps to Freedom. And that's hyphenated, as I said. So,
it's the number 8.
Yeah, it's the number 8. Yeah, it's the number 8. So these monthly webinars, Aingeal Rose mentioned about them, that they run for 8 months. Don't be scared by that, because it's only 1 hour a month. That's all it is, just 1 hour a month. For 88 minutes, yeah. And they've been structured really to help in all areas of like business, career, life purpose, income, relationships, partners, family, sex, health and healing, God, spirit, soul, beliefs, and so on. So it might even help you to get the experiences you want and need out of life. It might help to find your soul purpose. It might even answer that question, who am I and why am I here?
That's a loaded question, Ahonu, as you know. But we certainly will be helping people get in touch with that. They will be discovering that themselves. And, you also make a point to remove the fog of uncertainty in these times. And, Ahonu, we've been in fog up here in the hills for the past 3 or 4 days.
It's a weather fog.
Certainly symbolic of the inner fog, I have to say. Okay, but anyway, we will be helping to remove the fog of uncertainty in these times, and to show people that they are an integral part of what happens next. Our future is really dependent upon all of us. So that is, there's no reason to feel disheartened, really, about the world once you understand that you're part of creating it and you're not in effect of other things. So discover who your partners are to you. This is an important thing. We will be spending probably one whole week on talking about the different types of relationships that are surfacing in this time period, deeply soulmate relationships, and also twin flame relationships are surfacing. Certainly you and I are twin flames, and why they're coming together. We'll be talking about the new children because they have a very, very important part to play in this whole process, and they are part of the freedom because many of us have been the ones that came here first, that have laid down the foundation for these advanced children to appear and raise the frequency. So a lot of us have been part of this project for many, many, many years, and that's really, really, really important. We will be spending time talking about prosperity, what true prosperity is, how to create more prosperity in your life on all levels. We're not just talking about money. We're talking about the quality of your life in general. We're talking about your interrelationship with others and with your world. So prosperity is much bigger than if you have a fat bank account, although that's important. All right, and also we'll be engaging your higher self in comfortable dialogue. We will be explaining what the higher self is. It's not the end. It is only a bridge. So we'll be using the higher self, though, to begin to bring you messages and show you how you can connect with that part of yourself as well. And to have you be comfortable and confident with trusting your own inner guidance. And I have people who worry about this too, worry that how do they know that they're really hearing their own inner guidance? How do you tell, when you're receiving false messages as opposed to authentic messages? So that'll be a part of what this will be about as well. And basically to find the sense of meaning and value in your life, but we can't do that without also showing you how you've, up until now, have been creating the meaning in your life. You are the one who associates X with Y. You are the one that connects A to B. This is your own inner language, your own meaning that you give things. So if that's not working for you, and feel that you're not experiencing a sense of value in your life on whatever level, we will be looking deeply, deeply into that as well.
Okay, how can you use this information? This is something that we get asked all the time because a lot of it is deep and it's philosophical. But you can use it in your business, in your career. You can use it to increase your income or your sphere of influence. You can use it to increase the trust and vitality of your body. You can also, as Aingeal Rose mentioned, use it in your relationships. And who knows what might buzz with excitement with the knowledge of your past lives together or your karma together. But certainly you'll find your common purpose together. And it will become more peaceful for you as your personal growth becomes a joy, not a struggle. And the other thing that I want to touch on during the course of the 8 months is how sound affects you. Now, everybody's name is unique to them, and we have the ability to be able to determine how the sound of their name connects to their past lives and how it connects onward into the future, and how indeed it can have something to do with ancestral clearing. So a lot in store for you there. And this whole program is designed to help you grow in spiritual awareness as you encounter the big picture and accelerate those possibilities in all areas of your life. We believe that it will certainly help you to get back in touch with your real self, your authentic self, and to overcome that authority problem. We're going to spend some time on that authority problem because it's so deeply ingrained in us from the time we're little with children with our parents, but then the whole school system is designed to make us submissive and be good little boys and girls. And then this leads to the enjoyment of the return of self-sovereignty. So let's just read that website again to you. It's ahonu.com/8 steps to freedom, and that's the number 8, and it's all hyphenated, 8 steps to freedom. So just run down quickly to what's included. Now, as we said, we do retain the right to change this as circumstances dictate and as we accept our own divine guidance. But you will certainly get knowledge, you will get experiential techniques, there'll be meditations included, there's questions and answers, and there's free goodies, of course. And it may or may not incorporate things like the vibration of you, twin flames and soulmates, indigo, crystal and rainbow children, ascension in 2012, Simone, quantum jumping, the Akashic records, the authority problem, money and sovereignty. And we may also be guided to look into stuff like reality as a dreamscape, your spirit self and how it works, the conceptual mind, the brain interface and the chemical body, your powers of association, the language of symbolism, connecting the dots together, monitoring your dreams, accessing your spirit self, establishing a rapport with God, meeting your own God self, surrendering, releasing, inviting and forgiving, conscious choosing. Indeed, we might even talk about conscious languaging. We're going to certainly talk about being free, and then we'll finish with a self-mastery masterclass.
Yeah, so that's actually quite a bit, Ahonu, of really, really wonderful information. And like I said, the participants will dictate in what order and in what way we incorporate this knowledge. Certainly we have our own ideas, but we're willing to flow with the whole program. And one of the things we didn't mention that I think we should is for people to discern, especially in their dreams, what their dreams mean. We did mention dreams, but there's so many levels of dreams. For example, you and I both in the past few weeks have had dreams of ET appearances. Now, this is a touchy subject, okay? But it made us aware that something was going on in the etheric that, you know, was kind of a real event. So in terms of the etheric levels and the different dimensional levels that are available to us that intersect our reality all the time, we will be discussing, you know, how to read dreams that seem to be out of our dimension or even prophetic, because, you know, certainly some of them can be quite fearful to people. And so we'll be looking at that also, in what part of our own mind could be in some sort of a, you know, symbolic representation with those dreams. So we'll be looking at that, and ultimately what we're ending up with here is how important choice is. We didn't really talk about choice, but it's a huge part of your freedom is being free to choose. But more than that, it's about knowing what you're choosing. And, you know, it's part of the reason we're going to be talking a lot about, you know, the symbolism of your own language, your own inner language, because if you don't understand your own language, you won't know how to read the signs in your outer world. You won't know how to read your dreams. You won't understand what the messages are, and ultimately you won't know what to choose to make a difference or to change things. So all of this will be really, really exciting and very, very powerful and very, very positive. So I hope you'll join us with this change. And Ahonu, you know, I do think you should be talking about the price of this wonderful course, which is very inexpensive and very powerful. So we're trying to make it affordable to people of all different income brackets, Ahonu. because I've been, certainly through the course of my life, been given many, many gifts from teachers and people who have had knowledge that I've needed at certain times, and I really wasn't able to afford much. So we are extending, what we feel is a very easy and realistic program for people. But we do want to interject here that Ahonu mentioned earlier that you're under no obligation to continue, but we will put a limit on that. If you are going to cancel, you will only be entitled to a refund after the second month. Okay?
Okay, it's €22 or $28 is all it costs per month, per session. Now, if you multiply that out by 8, you'll find that would cost you €160 or I think like $220. But if you book it now, before the first one starts, before the 8th of September, you will only be charged €88 or $111. That's a 50% discount for all our listeners. That is huge. We would love you to go ahead and register now. You can register at ahonu.com/8 steps to freedom. So by way of a little summary, I guess, let's just track back here and see what we covered today. We're speaking specifically about the 8 Steps to Freedom program, which we have developed and are opening starting on the 8th of September. And if you go to ahonu.com/8 steps to freedom, you'll find out all about it. But here we've answered, why is it called the 8 Steps to Freedom? We've looked at what are the 8 Steps to Freedom. We covered a little bit of housekeeping, of course, of necessity. We went through what you don't need. And then we covered that little bit about ourselves, who are we, and why the 8 Steps to Freedom, why it's necessary now. And then we looked at a few of the items in What's in It for Me and how it may help you. And indeed we covered how you can use this information. We looked at the various items which we may include with it. And I'd like to just pop through a few little quick testimonials at the moment. Now, we've hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of testimonials. And again, I don't want to sound like we're blowing our own trumpet here, but just by way of, when we spoke to many, many people about this, they gave us the feedback that said, I love it, I love it, I love it. Another person says that I advanced more in my self-actualization taking their classes than in any other class. Linda says, your work is beautiful and life-changing as always. And Yvonne says, wow, Ahonu, this is fantastic. I love it. And Susan says, it's so great. I am so proud to be part of the project. Liana says, it's so intuitive and visionary. My blessings, as always, for all of your work. And Anne says, you both are so awesome, and all the lives you change and touch. And then this other lady says, Ahonu Aingeal's intuitive insight has cleared so many issues for me that I keep coming back for more. I have grown immensely as a result of their work. I highly recommend Ahonu and Aingeal Rose.
It's nice to be recommended, Ahonu. But we do have to reiterate, though, we love the praise. We appreciate the praise and the support. That really does mean a lot to us. But we do have to reinforce that it is your own self-discovery that will cause the change for you. And we are only, hopefully, catalysts that'll allow that to happen for you. So do jump on board. We love the interaction. We love the relationships. And it brings us great joy to be able to turn on any light bulbs in your head where you make a connection with yourself. So I think that's what I find joy in. I don't know about you, Ahonu. Except that I do have to tell you that when he's doing his paintings, his whole presence changes. His eyes twinkle. He's got this interesting aura. It's like a whole hugely different part of him. And if it was up to me, he'd be painting 24/7.
Well, now, that is exactly the same for you when you're making your fairies. And I'd venture to say it's the same for anybody when they're doing what they came here to do. When you're doing your sole purpose, that light in you shines. Now, for the last, let's say, 10 minutes of our program, I'd really like to get into some questions and answers that we have been asked, because these things may well be coming up in your minds. And on the radio, of course, it's very difficult for you to get through sometimes and to ask these questions and to hear the answers. So we've posited some questions that we'll answer now live on the show for you. What if I can't make one of the sessions? Good question. Well, what happens is we actually will be recording every single session, and you will have access to all of these recordings by way of the archives. We'll make a separate private archive section on our website available to you, so you can actually download them and listen to the session at any point in time at your leisure. So there's no, don't feel committed or in some way obliged or guilty indeed if you can't make any one of the live sessions. They will all be archived. What if I want to quit halfway? Aingeal Rose mentioned about our refund policy after month 2, no refunds, which is it's just a practical decision that we've had to arrive at. But really, there's no reason why you can't quit at any point in time, as we recognize many people are not ready or ready for this type of knowledge. And if you feel it's too much for you, or it's too way out, or too wacky, or not practical, or you think we're not doing what we said we would do, you can quit at any point in time. Another question we get asked all the time is, are there handouts? Now, we're in the age of technology, we're in the age of the internet, and because we're doing this online, you won't have a room where we will be handing out physical handouts. Now, having said that though, we will be posting online in that section where we will set aside various downloads that will be available to you. Indeed, we have set aside some of them already, where there are some free little goodies available for you to download. You can download those at your leisure and print them out. So the answer to the question really is yes, there are handouts, and there will be lots of them throughout the entire period. Aingeal Rose did go answer that question about, will my name be made public? The answer is no. This is a private invitation-only session. Do please forward the invitation, though, to your friends and your family. But no, your name won't be made public. We will never misuse an email address or any name. We will never, ever do that. Question, will I have to disclose my identity to the other participants? And the answer is, only if you want to. The way we have structured our own webinars, we host our own webinars, and you can allow your identity to be disclosed to the other participants if you want. You could just as easily sign in with a pseudonym, and there's absolutely no reason why you can't do that if you're concerned about your identity. It is very, very private. We're very, very aware of your privacy, so you don't have to disclose your identity to anybody. Do I have to have a certain level of spiritual awareness to benefit from this program? Let's see if Aingeal Rose would give us a very, very profound answer to that question.
We actually already did answer that earlier, Ahonu. But no one has to have any level of spiritual awareness. You just have to have a willingness to want to learn and grow and know about yourself. That's all that's really, really needed. And as soon as you make that choice, actually, your own higher guides and teachers will be on board, I do have to say, to support you in that choice.
Okay. Now, is there homework involved?
There may be. I'm quite a taskmaster, aren't I, Ahonu, when I come to some of these things. And it really depends what we're talking about each week. There could be, actually, there probably always will be homework. But I will say the homework will be, ways that you can further. Well, in the months in between, I'm kind of fumbling over my words here, but in the months in between, it is a good idea to practice what we've talked about. So in that way, yeah, there's homework. I may, ask all of you to do certain things during the month that will further enhance your own inner sensitivity to yourself. And this is all part of the commitment to knowing yourself. So it won't be like a taskmaster who's going to grade you week to week. This is about your own relationship with yourself, and only you can put the effort into that as you see fit. So yes, there will be homework. What you do with it is your responsibility, but certainly, the more you become aware of, the greater will be your gain.
Okay, another question we get asked quite constantly, and not only about this program, but about various programs. Why are you charging? Shouldn't spiritual knowledge be free? Okay, let's tackle it. Let's get stuck into this. We have costs. Everybody has costs. It's the way our 3D world is structured. It's the dreamscape that we have bought into. So, time has a cost to it. Materials have a cost to it. Web hosting has a cost to it. Everything, it seems, has a cost to it. So, in order to be able to approach things on this level, then it's like when in Rome, do as the Romans do. So in order to be able to use the technology, there are costs that we have to meet. But it's also why we have structured it at such a very, very low cost. We're really only talking about, €11 or something like €8 or $11 per month, which is absolutely very, very little.
Sorry.
Yes, I may have got that wrong. But anyway, you'll find it out when you go to the website. It's very, very little. And as I said, there's a 50% discount for registering before the 8th of September, before it begins. So that's why. And it's also why anybody who is a therapist or a counselor, it seems that people in that spiritual growth arena have a difficulty with charging. And it's something that we will be covering in the progress of the workshops. We will be covering that area of self-value, of the fair exchange of energies. So I hope that answers your question for you. Somebody else asked us, can we be contacted between the sessions if you need help? And the answer is absolutely, of course. We make ourselves available to people. If anybody is stuck, anybody has difficulty, anybody needs a question answered, contact us. You can contact us in a multitude of ways. We have a very, very high social media presence. We are always available on aingealrose.com/contact or ahonu.com/contact. So you'll get us through our websites, and those who are more intimately connected with us will have our US telephone number, our Irish telephone number, and our email addresses. So yes, we are available to help you, within reason, of course, considering the time zones, because we've a lot of people who are signed up to this from the various time zones in the United States, and of course there's a 5-hour time difference between New York and Dublin, so bear that in mind. Now, another question we get asked is, how is my confidentiality protected? And we did go through this a little while ago. I won't dwell on it too much now, except to say we're very aware of the need to protect people's identities, and confidentiality is assured. So be assured we're very aware of that, and your email addresses and your names will not be used in anything else except this particular program. Another thing that people are concerned about, seemingly, is, can we get a referral fee for telling others about your program? And my answer to that is absolutely yes. If you tell others, we'll reward you. Now, we don't have a formal structure set up as yet. We really would like to, at some point in time, get a formal affiliate program running, but we don't have as yet. But if you introduce somebody, certainly we will reward you, and we appreciate you spreading the word. In the meantime, though, put it on Facebook, put it on Twitter about it, let everybody know. We would be delighted. And then a final question that I have in this section, and I'm going to let Aingeal Rose answer this one. Do you offer this program offline? Do you do it in the form of workshops?
Yes, we do, Ahonu, but it does need to be said about the referral fee that until we get the affiliate program set up, that will be when the referrals will come into play. Anyway, what was the question, Ahonu?
Do you do this program offline?
We do it offline. We do it in a 2-day workshop. So we are available to do those. If you have an interest, you can contact us through email if you want to set one up in your area. And we will see what we can do. We will be back in the U.S. in September. We will be there available in the States. So do contact us if you're interested, and we hope you come on board. Okay, well, this has been great, Ahonu, and we look forward to serving you all and speaking with you very, very, very soon. So thanks for listening today, and hope you have a wonderful day.
This is the Art of Living Well Radio Network. Radio to inspire enlightened living.